Hello and welcome to Business Incorporated live on Channels Television, where we'll be tracking the markets, the economy, and see how all that affects your pocket. And here are the stories that set your agenda. South Africa's economy expands in the fourth quarter of 2025. In Egypt, urban inflation rises to 13.4% in February. And Ghana and South Korea to deepen trade and investment cooperation. Great to have you join us for this half hour. I'm Will Ibong. Let's check in on the commodities market space. First things first, oil prices plunged as much as 10% on Tuesday before paring losses as investors assess comments from U.S. President Donald Trump on the conflict in the Middle East and on oil flows via the critical Strait of Hormuz. We see Brent crude was down about 8% today at 7.92%, settled at $91.11 a barrel. We see WTI also around falling 7.2% to settle at $88. And also we see declines this coming after, prices that surged past $100. That was yesterday and Monday. Hopefully we'll see that continue to taper down. Now, natural gas, however, was on the upside, 0.32% at $3.13 a barrel. Now, we see that the Saudi Prime Minister is also warning of disruptions and is saying that if this disruption continues, we're going to see a catastrophic impact on the global economy. Let's move on to now the metal space. Now we see that also, inflation fears, that receded after oil prices fall, came after U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks that the Middle East war could end soon, while a weaker U.S. dollar and easing treasury yields also provided support for spot gold. Now we see spot gold was up 1.78% at $5,194 per ounce. We see spot silver also in the green. The metals, precious metals are all in the green. 1.95% for platinum at $2,211.10 per ounce. Palladium is also up nearly 1%. And we see copper also nearly 1% up. Let's look at what's happening in other major spaces, bringing down to energy spaces in Africa, drilling down to Nigeria. We see diesel prices in Nigeria have surged by about 63% to 1,620 naira per litre. This was coming after Dangote Refinery raised the ex-depot price yesterday for the fourth time in March. Now we see it is also coming because of the rising global oil costs. Now let's talk to Emefiele Onyelukachukwu. He is an analyst at FDC. Is going to be telling us what this means for Nigeria's economy. Emefiele, it's good to have you join us.
Thank you, Will, for having me.
Diesel is a key energy source for transport, especially in Nigeria, and power. How will this 63% price surge, worsened by this conflict that's ongoing in Iran, affect our GDP, inflation, and unemployment?
Okay. Thank you, Will, for having me. Yes, you are right that diesel prices has increased by 63% to 1,620 naira per litre. And this is because of the rise in global oil prices to as high as $90 per barrel, which has caused diesel prices to increase. And we're seeing crude oil prices increase because of the US, Israel, and Iran conflict that's happening currently. And so, for the Nigerian economy, diesel is very important and it plays a major role because it's one of the sources of energy here in the country. And for example, we have industries that use diesel, such as the manufacturing industries. They use diesel to boost their production, to carry out their day-to-day business activities. So a rise in diesel prices would lead to the rise in production costs for these manufacturers. And in order to curb this effect, what they can do is either to reduce the output in order not to increase prices of commodities, or they will push the cost to the consumers. But now that we're seeing that there's a cost of living crisis in the country, the manufacturers would most likely choose to reduce output and maintain price. And once output reduces, we see that economic activities will drop and then GDP will slow. Also, cutting costs, when these manufacturing firms cut costs, inflation will increase because they will have to lay off their unemployment will increase because they will have to lay off their staffs in order to stay afloat. Then concerning inflation, diesel is used to power trucks, and these trucks move goods from the producers to the target market. And due to the rise in diesel, we'll see diesel prices, you see that logistics costs will increase, which will feed into the prices of commodities. And when it feeds into the prices of commodities, you see that food inflation will increase, causing headline inflation to also increase.
And Mayfine, the question on most people's minds right now is that with comments from US President Donald Trump saying that the war in Iran may soon be over, how is this going to feed into energy prices in Nigeria? We saw that, uptick by Dangote, increasing ex-depot prices of petrol and diesel. But is this comment from Donald Trump going to, we're seeing easing in oil prices now, is this going to filter into our economy? We're going to see a drop in fuel prices anytime soon, especially for diesel and petrol that Nigeria solely depends on for most of their manufacturing and production.
Okay. Yes, you're right that Donald Trump made a statement yesterday that the conflict is coming to an end soon, and the market immediately reacted. We saw that crude oil prices dropped below $90 per barrel, and definitely it will have a positive effect on the Nigerian economy. Basically, PMS and diesel prices, we see that gantry price will most likely reduce, and which will also cause retail prices of both PMS and diesel to drop.
Okay, so we're looking at now, I think it's time for us to probably look at alternatives. What is it like for Nigeria? Are we pivoting now to say solar? What's it looking like?
Okay, so definitely because of diesel prices are expensive, you see that consumers and businesses are looking for alternatives such as solar. And solar initially was high, but now you see that prices are crashing because the top producer, China, has massively dumped solar panels into the country, which has caused prices to decline significantly. And so as a result of that, you see that there's massive adoption of the use of solar energy. But most importantly, we're also seeing that companies are using hybrid energy solutions. So they're not just leaving out the use of fossil fuel energy like diesel, they are combining it with the use of solar energy. So you see that maybe during the beginning part of the day, they use solar, and then towards the ending part of the day, they use diesel. So they are doing this in order to knock off the negative effect of both prolonged use of solar, because if you use solar for too long, it causes the batteries to get worn out. And replacement cost of batteries for solar is very expensive. So that's why they have to bring in the use of diesel, maybe at the end of the day, in order to curb this effect. So, yes.
Okay, definitely. Energy mix is what Nigeria needs, a mix of, solar, fossil fuels, and just to get our country economy running as it should. Thank you so much, Emefene Onyeluka-Chukwu, analyst with FDC. Thank you for all your thoughts on Business Incorporated.
Thank you, Will, for having me.
Now let's check out what's happening in the other economies in Africa. Leaders of South Korea and Ghana say they plan to deepen cooperation in trade, investment, and defense matters. Now, talks are expected to focus on expanding economic ties and strengthening strategic partnerships. Now, we're seeing the discussions come as both countries look to boost bilateral trade and explore new opportunities in infrastructure, technology, and security cooperation. Very important. Now, leaders are expected to outline practical steps to enhance this collaboration. Now, South Korea also hopes, to leverage its industrial and technology strengths to support Ghana's development goals, reflecting a growing partnership between Asia and Africa. Now let's look at South Africa now. We see the economy expanded by 0.4% in the fourth quarter of 2025, and that's on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Official data that's showing it indicating modest growth at the end of the year. Now, on an annual basis, the GDP rose 0.8%. That's compared to the same period a year earlier, and reflecting gradual economic recovery after a challenging period in the country. Now, economists say the positive readings suggest resilience in the economy, though growth remains moderate. That's amid broader structural and global challenges. Moving on, we see Other things, we see Egypt's inflation rate rose in February, even before the recent conflicts involving Iran pushed global energy prices higher. Now, we're looking at official data that showed that annual urban inflation increased to 13.4% in February, and that's up from 11.9% in January, marking the fastest pace since mid-2025. And prices rose sharply for food, housing, and utilities, a key component of household spending. Economists say the renewed price pressure could complicate policy decisions for Egypt's central bank, especially as higher global energy prices linked to Middle East tensions may push inflation even higher in the coming months. Now, to our first conversation now. With the March the 31st deadline for filing individual tax returns fast approaching, many Nigerians are asking, who really needs to file? What changes should we expect under the new tax framework? And how can first-time filers stay compliant? Today we're speaking with Mr. Abidin Akonde, a special advisor to the Lagos Internal Revenue Service chairman, who it's going to break down everything you need to know before submitting your return. So don't be afraid. Mr. Akonde, we're going to be talking about that now. And I'm sure before it comes up, Mr. Akonde, it's good to have people understand what's going on here. It's good to have you join us in the studio live because I want to know, Nigerians want to know what's going on in the tax space. It seems so unreal for many Nigerians, something they don't do, something that they're used to. So first of all, let's understand, what is this annual tax return and who needs to file it?
Okay. Now, the annual tax reform is actually a constitutional obligation on every citizen of Nigeria that is resident and other residents of Lagos, because you are reporting to Lagos Internal Revenue Service. It's a subnational obligation. So you are only reporting what you received in the preceding period, that is the calendar year of 2025, from 1st of January to December 31st, 2025. That this is how much I received as income. And perchance, those people that paid me this income have taken out of it, or I have also on my own paid some as advance tax. This is how much I've paid as tax. So I think I have also gone through the new laws and decided, or even if it's the old laws, that I think I still owe government X naira. So this is it. Or I owe X naira. I don't have the money now. I want to pay, and then this is how I want to pay to the state. So the tax authority, the state, will now say, okay, we have seen what you have sent to us, okay, and we have reviewed it. We think there are three outcomes. You have paid adequately, okay, so you don't need to pay anything again. You understand? Or, no, you still owe government some money. This is how much you owe to government. So pay within 30 days. Or, perchance, I think you have even overpaid. So if you have overpaid, you have this credit. Now, this new law gives you the leverage to decide how you want to use that credit that you have. Okay. Unlike before, okay, where the tax authority will tell you, okay, we'll use it to offset your subsequent taxes. You can now decide, I want my money back. I want a refund. Okay. So, and the tax authority is bound within 90 days to pay you your money in cash. Or, okay, you can say, no, next year, because we all expect to live till next year, that you can use it to offset my subsequent tax.
This brings me to ask this question. You talked about the income from the preceding year.
Yes.
This just started, and right, a lot of people don't keep records of maybe income that comes in. Maybe they just get inflows. A lot of people don't just have time to start filing or thinking that someone sent me this amount, someone sent me that amount, or I work for this. They just get money and they spend it, especially in this economy where we live mostly from hand to mouth. So how do we know? You mentioned something about you saying that you determine if they paid too much or they paid too little, or how do you know when they don't probably even know how much they are going to be filing, and how do you determine how much is adequate or how much is too much?
Okay, now the good thing about it is that, because what this new reform is trying to do is to move people from non-compliance to compliance. And then when you keep records, you are not keeping for the tax authority, you are keeping for yourself, because it allows you also to plan. So what we encourage people to do, and if you don't keep records, there's even a small penalty under the law if you don't keep records. So it's advisable that you do, because what you lose is that if perchance you are under the threshold of those people that government says don't pay taxes. You understand? If you don't have a record to demonstrate, the taxman will not know. So the taxman will now use his judgment, his or her judgment. Let me pretend that. Okay. So his or her judgment to say, because you don't have records, I'm estimating that this is your income for last year. Okay. You don't have any choice, and that I'm taking this amount as a presumptive tax from you. But if you keep records, you are likely to say you're not going to pay. But I can tell you honestly that under this new regime, the truth of the matter is this: if you keep proper records, based on the records that we use for 2024 people, the 24 year of assessment, we found out that if we apply the new rates that we have now, over 50% of those people that are in our records will not pay tax.
Okay, you mentioned the presumptive tax now, and that's supposed to cover or capture those in the informal economy, you know, those that can't really say they have a formal job, let's say, per se.
Yeah.
Talking about that and talking about this now, is it those that are working, are they obliged to also file the tax, because their taxes are deducted at source before they receive their net income? So are they supposed to file this tax as well?
Every single individual is expected to. Because what we are trying to do is very simple. Your employer that paid you your salaries has filed sometimes in January that I paid Will this amount last year. Okay. So you are confirming that before end of March that I received from my employer this amount of money. So it allows the taxman to cross-reference and cross-check whether this information is valid or not. So it helps the system in the sense that now, aside from your employer's income that you earn from, you could have income from other sources, passive income, investment income. You see, you need to declare it and tell the government, this is how much I earn. But like I said, it is the fact that you disclose your income does not mean that you are going to be liable to tax, because it allows you to interrogate the numbers and see if under the law you actually owe government money or not, or you're actually even expecting some refund from government.
So where are they supposed to file these taxes? As in, is there websites, and how user-friendly is it?
We are very user-friendly, so I can tell you this. Form A used to be about 6-page document. We reduced it to 1. We digitized it. So by 2018, we started a kind of hybrid system that allows people to file manually or file electronically. Okay. So by 2021, we crossed over completely. Okay. 2022, that you can only file electronically. Okay. So that's what we have in Lagos, and it is atax.lrs.net. It is very simple. It has a digital assistant that can assist you to take you step by step. Okay. If you get stuck, then we have, of course, our call center, and then also we have all our offices where we have help desks to assist taxpayers to complete and file their money at no cost to them. At no cost to them.
Okay, so we just want to know now, are we supposed to file, maybe like say we're working now, are we supposed to file to the federal government or to the state government? People want to know that. And is there a deadline for this filing? Because, and if there's a deadline, if the deadline is missed, are we going to pay that penalty? Because we're still trying to understand this.
No. The challenge we had in the past is that, see, our system was such that it was more of an incentivizing inadvertently people not to comply. Okay. But now it has been flipped 180 degrees under the new law, so that you just need to, if you fail to file, the very first month of not complying is 100,000 naira. And for every subsequent month, it is 50,000 naira. Why do you want to incur that when there are opportunities for you to do it at no cost to you? So now for individuals, their obligation is to file to the state, the subnationals. The only people that file to federal as individuals are the people in the armed forces, police, and then some, in fact, even people in Abuja used to do that before, but now they have an IRS in FCT that takes care of that. So obligation is to the state IRS. And that's why we have created this platform to make it extremely simple and easy for people to do.
So are retirees also obliged to file this? Or?
Everyone. You see, what you are declaring is that and if you are retired, it means you get paid pension. But pension is exempt, you understand? But you disclose it. that this is how much I earn from pension. And perchance, they have also invested, they have rental income, you also disclose that. So, but your pension will not be factored into the calculation of your tax because it is exempt.
Okay.
It is at zero tax. So, but if you have other income, because it is the income that we are taxing, it is not you. So being a pensioner does not mean that you are not liable to tax if you earn income from other sources aside from your pension income.
Thank you so much. I wish we had more time to break this down, but it's a whole lot to unpack, and I'm sure we'll have more conversations for Nigerians to get enlightened and informed about this. Thank you so much, Mr. Abidin Akonde, Special Advisor to the Chairman, Lagos Internal Revenue Service. Thank you for joining us on Business Incorporated.
Thank you.
And now let's turn our attention now to Europe. We've had this wonderful conversation about taxes, but we want to look at markets now and see how they're faring, especially with Donald Trump saying that the war in Iran is about to end. Our correspondent, Chiponda Chimulu, has been keeping an eye on the markets. Hi, Chip. How are Europe stocks trading right now, especially with oil prices easing?
Well, European markets are rebounding today somewhat, and the Pan-European Stock 600 is actually up around 1.5%, and the DAX is around 1.9%, but they were trading much higher before. They were way over 2%. So they are off their highs for today, but obviously markets are responding quite positively to the fact that President Trump did make that statement that the Iran war may end soon. So we have, of course, seen oil prices and European natural gas prices also dropping as a result, and that is what has been helping prop those markets. And while they still, of course, it is worth mentioning that these prices still remain significantly higher than before the beginning of the Iran war. But what we are seeing today is that investors are hopeful about an end to that war, at least more than they were on Monday. Well, but that said, European businesses are continuing to respond to the higher energy prices that we are seeing, and airlines are raising ticket prices because, of course, European jet fuel prices, for instance, have risen very sharply and reached the highest level since 2022. So as long as we do have that war continuing, and of course the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, what we can expect to see is higher prices in other industries as well.
We'll keep an eye on that. But now to another topic now. We see that data coming from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, is saying Germany is now the world's fourth largest exporter of weapons, talking about war right now. And according to this report, it was fueled by the booming defense industry amid geopolitical tensions. Can you break down these latest figures for us, Chip?
Yeah, that boom is so much that actually, of course, Germany has moved up one spot to become the world's fourth biggest exporter of arms, and it has overtaken China. Now, Germany's trade in arms increased to a level that is just now under 6% of global arms exports, and the most important region for German arms deliveries is Europe, followed by the Middle East, and then Asia and Oceania. And the main drivers, like you mentioned there, of Germany's booming defense industry are the war in Ukraine. But of course, not just that, it's also the uncertainty about the U.S. commitment to NATO. That is what has led to a significant increase in military spending by many European countries.
How different is this from regions? Now, making a comparison, looking at Poland, Italy, how different is Germany's ranking now from other regions? How do you compare that?
Well, in the 5 years from 2021 to 2025, Europe actually became the most important region for arms imports in the world. And the whole region of Europe actually accounted for a third of the market. Now, Oceania and Asia, they have slipped to second place, but it wasn't much far behind Europe. And it was the Middle East that was in third place at just over a quarter of arms imports. Now, the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, of course, in 2022 was the biggest contributing factor to Europe's significant increase in arms purchases. And of course, since then, what we have seen is that European countries are shoring up their own military capabilities, well, partly because, of course, because the Trump administration has been insisting that they do that. And the White House has also made European leaders question whether they can really rely on the United States for security in the future. Now, the EU has not even been invited by Washington in the negotiations with Kiev and the Kremlin for a ceasefire to end the ongoing war in Ukraine. And in terms of arms trade, it is the United States, well, that, of course, remains by far the world's biggest supplier of arms, with around 42% of arms imports when it comes to what it was supplying to other countries.
I will keep watching that and see who comes out on top. Probably EU might make that list number one. Let's see. Thank you so much, Chiponda Chimbelu, for your insights on Business Incorporated. It's always good to have you. And now let's look at what's happening in the world of crypto right now. We see mostly green. Look like investors are getting hyped on the fact that the war in Iran is going to end very soon, according to U.S. President Donald Trump. We see Bitcoin up 3.67% on that news. We see at $70,555. And we see Ethereum also up, BNB, and also just a pocket of red there, and XRP is also, Solana is also in the green. So much to unpack from there. But let's see what's making headlines in that space. Founders of crypto exchange Gemini, Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss have transferred roughly $130 million worth of Bitcoin to Gemini hot wallet over the past week, according to blockchain analytics platform Arkham. And a tweet, Arkham said, transfers were made from wallets it had tagged as belonging to the pair were made over the past week, suggesting potential sell-side positioning as Bitcoin trades near local highs. Let's move on. Let's see, Stack BTC has raised $247,000 from several entities, including Nigel Farage, leader of the Reform UK Party, and Blockchain.com. The fundraising was carried out through the issuance of 5.2 million new ordinary shares at 5 pence per unit, with plans to use the proceeds to buy and grow UK businesses, build a Bitcoin treasury, and fund general working capital. What's next? United States retry Tornado Cash, as is speaking to retry Roman Storm, co-founder of Tornado Cash, a crypto mixer, on March the 9th of 2026. The DOJ, in a formal letter, requested that the court set a retrial date. Now, the U.S. DOJ, through his prosecutors, filed a letter with the judge, Catherine Falila, requesting a retrial date. The trial of Storm stems from the fact that the jury in the initial trial failed to reach a consensus on the two contradictory charges. And that's what makes what wraps it up on Business Incorporated today. I am Will Ibong. I'll see you same time tomorrow.